Hey, welcome, fight fans, to another episode of Before the Bald Man Speaks. I think this is episode 40. After a goddamn chaotic UFC 199, we just watched Michael Bisping become the middleweight champion of the world. Probably in the most unexpected turn of events that anyone could have predicted. It definitely marks up as it ties actually for the biggest upset numerically of the year. When I had it closed at a 475, equaling Brian Barberena's upset, but just such a much bigger impact, it being in the title fight, and Luke Rockhold looking like an unstoppable force in the division, and definitely after his first win against Michael Bisping, you didn't expect this. I'm here to break down all the insanity from this card because there was just really, really wild fights, top to bottom here all night from Los Angeles in the Forum. I got my co-host. I got my co-host of the MMA Circus, Nick Baldwin. Nick, you came in here at short notice. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, just like Michael Bisping came in short notice, and I'm going to knock this show out.
Man, I'm hoping for big things from you. We also have joining us later in the show the man himself, Mike Biggie Rhodes, Milwaukee's finest, stopping by. Um, Jesus, Nick, we had ourselves a main event, didn't we? Oh, speaking of Milwaukee's finest, in the building, the man himself, Mike Biggie Rhodes. Mr. Rhodes, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Oh no, fantastic to have you. A crazy night of fights, to say the least. I was just about to ask Nick, and I'll let you get settled. Nick, what did you think about this main event? And did you have any inkling this was going to happen? Because it looked like it wasn't working out for Bisping when it started.
Well, it left me speechless. First off, I don't think I had really any other thoughts than anyone else. Not too many people, if any, were calling for a Michael Bisping win. I know of a couple people that maybe predicted he would be able to grind out a decision. Maybe Rockhold's movement wouldn't be as good with the MCL tear. How serious that was could have played a part into this fight, but no one was calling for a first round knockout for Michael Bisping, because Bisping, people he said it. He's always criticized for his level of power for the middleweight division, and I will say it. And everyone kind of underestimated his power for
Biggest
good reason.
upset? Biggest upset in UFC title history?
No, because
What was the
Holly
big?
Holm over Ronda. I would go Holly Holm,
Okay.
maybe Matt. It's definitely up there. But with Luke Rockhold being a new champion, I don't think it was number one or number two, but it's definitely top five. I would say that's my initial thought. But as far as the fight,
Mike,
man, maybe Rock. I don't know why that happened. I really don't. I still feel Rockhold's the better fighter, but man, Michael Bisping went in there, threw a couple overhand rights a couple minutes into the first round, and knocked out Luke Rockhold. Was Rockhold
well, right there
underestimated?
is basically why that happened. You said you wondered why it didn't happen. I saw exactly why it happened. Michael Bisping just refused to be shut out of this fight and shut down simply because the haters said he had no business being in the fight. Now, Mike, biggest upset in UFC history, biggest upset in UFC middleweight history. It's a fantastic finish in a culmination of a great career. Where are you landing on this spectacular finish?
I definitely think it's up there as one of the bigger upsets ever. It's on par with the Matt Serra, kind
Yeah.
of upsets of the world. Not too many people outside of Michael Bisping really gave him a chance. A lot of people be like, "Oh, I won money on that," betting on it because he was such a dog, and really thinking he was going to come through on your money is two different things, man. And I've been telling people I am a huge Michael Bisping fan, but I tweeted it right before the fight. I said I want Bisping to win, but I know it's going to be Rocco. And then I ate my words a couple minutes later. Big check hook with a right hand, and it was good night, man. Michael Bisping, you can't count that guy out. And what a Cinderella story. This dude is somebody who was never, ever, ever going to get a title shot. And now look, he's got the belt around his waist, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's the craziest part about it. If you zoom out from the card a little bit, no one was talking about giving Michael Bisping a title shot. There was an inkling towards it, and actually, me and Nick had a conversation during the Anderson Silva fight, or just before it, to be precise, saying that hey, they're looking for Anderson to if Anderson takes the win here, that he gets a title shot. I never expected anything like this. There was nowhere on anyone's radar coming into 2016 when we say Michael Bisping gets a title shot, never mind wins. By hook or by crook, the man gets it. What does this do for Michael Bisping and how we envision Michael Bisping as a legacy guy? This was such a statement in his last two fights on a career that we thought was just going to fade into, kind of that mediocrity that we see a lot of legends fade into. And now he's sitting there with the championship belt around his waist. Nick, how does this change Michael Bisping's legacy and how we view his career?
Well, it drastically changes it because he was once known as the middleweight gatekeeper, the number one gatekeeper, the number one guy who would never get a title shot, never win the title to go that far, and now he's the champion. He is on top. I don't think he will last on top for long. There are a ton of killers now below him. Jacare and Yolo Romero come to mind, of course, and I do think I would probably favor to get a new champion in both fights, and I still think a Rockhold trilogy could go in Rockhold's favor, but I'm not here to say that Michael Bisping, he's far from the best middleweight out there right now. It doesn't matter really. He is the middleweight champion. His pay will go up drastically. It's already pretty good, probably in the six figs. I don't know exactly what he's making for
businessman Nicholas Baldwin out there. Get Nick Baldwin as your agent, boys. Come on, get serious.
Yes, of course. I'm always available. My client list
the consultancy is open. We have no clients right now. We're open in the consultancy. Yes. Mike, let's not just speak on maybe his legacy, but also what do you see next for Michael Bisping? We have a lot of matchups and a lot of potential that we can run back. If you are a matchmaker, you're Joe Silva. What do you want to see next for the count?
Honestly, man, if they're smart, they're going to keep him away from a Jacare. I think that he beats Yoel Romero, honestly. I think that he can withstand the power shots. I think he drags the very muscular guy into later rounds. And we've seen what Tim Kennedy did to Yoel Romero minus the stool gate. So I think Michael wins that fight. Now, Jacare, that's another animal. But run him away from those two guys. Give him say a fight, make the Dan Henderson 2. I think he can win that one later on. I think he can outpoint a Dan Henderson. And then you let him, Ross Pearson, you let Gunnar Nelson, you let Alex Gustafsson, you let them go into a stadium in the UK before you lose him as a champion. If they're smart, they'll cash in on that money train over in Europe.
Yeah, right. You could just envision how they're planning out a London return, even if it's late 2016. You just have to. You could sell at the O2 Arena, which is a huge, nearly 50,000 seater they can configure it for. So I don't think you miss out on that. God damn it! This was a great, fantastic upset, but this was a night of unstoppable upsets. You mentioned Dan Henderson, Mike, right there. And goddamn if Mike Henderson didn't knock Hector Lombard the fuck out. Like, Jesus, dude. Like, these are things that when you see matchups like we saw across 199, we thought that it was chalk all day. These favorites looked like such dominant fighters. But this was a great card to just kind of smash our assumptions about MMA and show you that a gritty, tough guy, despite being maybe the less technical athlete, despite being the older guy, despite whatever detriments we want to put into these guys' fights, the fights need to happen, and we see these fantastic upsets. Dan Henderson, though, is everyone on the same page as me in that we want to see Dan Henderson ride off into the sunset on this great victory? Mike, what do you think about Dan Henderson? If you're Dan's camp, what are you saying to him?
If I'm Dan's camp, family, and everything, man, I am telling him to take the ride, man. You can't do much more than what he's done. I mean, look at the guy. He has the bombshell wife. He's tough as hell. He's the old dude who's gonna drink some whiskey. Like, what more can you do as Dan Henderson? Like, you just got almost annihilated. You come back, and then you knock the guy out in Dan Henderson fashion. And my teammate Dustin Ortiz is the biggest Dan Henderson fan, and right away he posted a picture of Dan Henderson pushing a grill across
yes.
that I am the most manliest man ever, and that's what he is, man. Right off in the sunset. Don't come out here, take any more damage, and potentially lose, man. Walk out like GSP on top of where you're gonna go out on top of. And this is a big win for Dan Henderson. I don't see other fights. If it's not the Bisping in the O2 Arena for the belt, then why do it? Walk away from the sport and be happy with what you've done.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice, I think. Nick, Dan Henderson, 1 of 8 KOs on the night. Kind of falls in line with a lot of his highlight reel finishes in his career. Lands 2 vicious elbows after the fighter's completely out. What do you say to the man, Hendo? Imagine yourself as his manager. Manager Nick Baldwin. What do you got for advice?
Yeah, business consultant and manager Nick Baldwin. I like it. I'm going to be telling Dan Henderson, just like Mike here, definitely retire because, as Mike said, he really can't do too much more other than knock out Bisping again and win the middleweight title. And man, that would be a huge story, and I would love that. But at the same time, even though Mike said it, I can't understand that matchmaking anymore. A year ago, even 6 months ago, before the Anderson win, I was liking that Bisping-Hendo rematch. It made sense when Bisping was still number 8, or number 6, number 7, number 8, right around there. But now he's a champion. Hendo's coming off a win over a welterweight who just moved up, returned to the middleweight division, looked small, height-wise, reach-wise. And in Hector Lombard, of course, it was a fantastic win. It was a great knockout, the elbow to the temple, just amazing. Definitely made me smile, even as a Hector Lombard fan. Anytime Dan Hendo wins, it makes the entire MMA community smile. But as far as Dan Hendo's legacy, his career, I don't think he can go any farther than how far he's already gone, because I don't think he's going to be a top contender anytime soon, and I don't think he's going to become the champion anytime soon. But at the same time, 6 months ago, I would have said the same thing for Michael Bisping. So this is why MMA is the greatest sport out there, because anything can happen. But I still think Dan Hendo going farther than he has is kind of one of those where it's like, this, even in MMA, it's not going to happen. So Dan Hendo, coming off a huge win over Hector Lombard, hang up the gloves for good, and don't come back in 5 years.
Yeah, definitely not in 5 years. Dan Henderson, very, very rarely do people get to kind of go out on a high note like this. I'd love to see him take the opportunity. That's the only reason I bring it up. Lost in the shuffle of all kind of this insanity was almost like a little bit of normalcy with Dominic Cruz beating Uriah Faber for the 135-pound strap, defending his title for the second time after recapturing it against TJ. What do we think about a pretty dominant performance here, Nick?
Well, it was a good win for Dominic Cruz. I will admit I was disappointed. I was hoping that Faber would be able to at least make it a fight, and I do think he made it. I do think he made it a bit of a fight. I actually scored it for Faber in the first round. Definitely not the fight. It was a good win for Dominic Cruz. It absolutely was. His movement is just so amazing. You have no idea what Dominic Cruz is going to do when he's in there, what angles he's going to take. And Faber, as expected, there was a reason he was a 3-1 favorite going in. As expected, he was just a bit too gun-shy, honestly. He didn't put enough pressure on Dominic Cruz, and he was just one step behind the entire time. I instantly messaged one of his teammates, Team Alpha Male fighter Adam Corrigan. I just DM'd him, kind of got his thoughts on the fight, and he said the same thing I'm saying right now. Faber looked good in that first round. He was doing kind of what he needed to do. I still think he could have landed more, gone forward more. But then after he got rocked in that second round and nearly knocked out completely, that is when the fight shifted, and when Dominic Cruz started dominating the fight like many people thought he would. Just from the very beginning, he started landing more. He caught Faber multiple times after that. Faber just wasn't using his forward pressure nearly enough. He wasn't just throwing enough, even from a bit farther back. He just didn't do what he needed to do going into this title fight, and once again, he's on the losing end of a UFC title fight.
Yeah, Mike, if you're in imagine for a second, go into my hypothetical world. I'm in your corner, middle of the second round. You're in a 5-round title fight, and I go up to you and I tell you to bring it Tiger style. What exactly are you going to bring to the cage when I give you the advice to go Tiger style?
Um, in a hypothetical world, if I'm hearing that from Master Tong, I know what that means. That means go out there and just let it loose. You know what I mean? Like literally walk forward, throw with, just nasty intentions. Like just let it go. Like this is probably your last opportunity. Like literally just walk forward, throw punches, eat punches, just get after it. You know what I mean? Just know that you have to live in these few moments that you have. You know what I mean? It's live or die. And that's what the Tiger style would kind of mean to me. It's like, all right, my coach just told me high and tight guard. You got to go knock this guy out, or you got to get knocked out. Like that's what it means to me.
So if someone gives you the advice of Tiger style, you don't brush that off as just like, okay, yeah, thank you, but I need actual real help now. You're like, okay, I got you. I just got to go beast mode.
Yeah, hopefully that's something that he said in camp or something.
Like he threw it out just today.
Hey, Tiger style. Maybe that was something.
And you're like, what the fuck, dude? Tiger style? Why are you bringing that up?
We have Iowa style. I'm from Iowa, so every now and then, if you go back and listen to my title fight against Alan Jaban, you hear Duke say Iowa style, and that just meant grind. You know what I mean?
If you had to be an animal, like if they had to like give you a tiger style, what animal would it be?
Probably bear. Go bear him. Bear arms. Just bear it all out.
That's like a clumsy grappling style, I imagine. Like if you bear style someone, you got to get them in like a Muay Thai clinch and like throw them or head and arm throws.
Everything.
All right. Man, honestly, I feel like we almost moved on a little bit too quickly from the main event, only because it's so impactful and so kind of crazy and shakes up the MMA landscape. God, you know what? An aspect of this that I'm not even thinking about is AKA and them losing their premier champion. I mean, I know right now the 205-pound champion of the UFC still is Daniel Cormier.
But not for long.
Nick knows where I'm going with that. God, we almost looked towards a UFC 200 where that camp that was shooting up and on the rise and looked unstoppable now looks like it's completely out of champions. What do you think about something like that, Nick? And do you have any other thoughts on the main event tonight?
Well, as far as AKA, it's interesting because there was a time when they could have had 3 and maybe even 4 champions with Khabib. If he got back earlier, I still believe he can give RDA a run for his money. He's beaten him once, why not twice? I would actually probably favor Dos Anjos in a rematch just because RDA is so goddamn good right now. But at the same time, forgetting about Khabib and focusing on the heavier champions and the heavier fighters, Kane, well, we know what happened. Of course, he's going to look to rebound against Travis Brown. He probably will successfully rebound, look for another title fight soon enough. But at the same time, now you have Daniel Cormier, and I absolutely favor Jones in that fight coming up next month. And of course, we know what just happened to Rockhold. So as far as AKA, it's interesting because they get so much criticism already for their injuries. Every other AKA fighter is injured, it seems. Just so often, Josh Thompson just pulled out. Khabib is hurt so often. He's not right now, which is...
I don't know. I want to put a pause on the whole criticizing AKA as a gym thing that's happening in MMA. I mean, it's hard and a rare thing for any gym, no matter how much stature they have or how much history they have in the game, to have that many fighters at a high level. They just have a really good group of people who are really intelligent and skilled in the game. Now, do they have an injury problem? Yeah, but I think that MMA and the mentality of training in MMA in general has an injury problem. So, I think they get an unfair portion of kind of the blame here. And I don't think that had any bearing on what we saw tonight. I think tonight in the main event, maybe we saw a little bit too much cockiness and a little bit too much... I guess relaxed.
He was relaxed. He was over relaxed, actually.
Maybe that's possible. You always say a relaxed fighter is a great fighter, Mike. Is that true to you? Or do you think there's a point where you could get too laid back?
Yeah, I think that he was not only was he laid back, he just got lackadaisical with his defense. Now you can be laid back because I mean, if you watch me fight, I never look like I'm really in a hurry. I don't show you too much in my facial expressions. I don't
Yeah.
grunt. I don't do any of those things. But there's always an attention. I'm always at attention with my defense, And you can kind of tell how he threw that punch and he kind of just stayed leaning. And then, he never brought his hands back up or he never moved away. And it's kind of what Anderson did with Chris Weidman. There's a time to be relaxed, which Anderson is the most relaxed fighter in all of MMA. But then he got lazy with the attention to detail. He didn't move his feet. And that's the reason why he got knocked out. If he would have moved his feet, then he's still the champion right now, And I think that's just what happened to Luke Rockhold is, you have to have that confidence, that relax, that, a little bit of cockiness in your stand-up to be able to trade in the pocket. I just think he got a little bit lazy with one detail, and it ended up costing him the fight. But, yeah, definitely with the injury thing with AKA, one of my teammates just got hurt the other day wrestling in a position that, we're all like, hey, how did you fall like that? And it's just weird, man. You train so many aspects that injuries happen. But, yeah, man, that fight changes the landscape for all of the middleweight division. Like, what do you do? Where do you go? What's next? Do you wait for somebody else? Like, what really happens there? But, it shows you what the MMA game is about. You go from having all the champions to close to having none, and it shows you that there's no such thing as a dynasty or a team of guys that are just going to – it won't happen. They thought it was King's MMA. Verdum lost. You know what I mean? So it's like you never know. And that's the reason why I love the sport is, it made me look back and realize today that I can get knocked the fuck out at any moment, and I better be ready and get the fight over, no playing around.
Yeah, definitely. I think it speaks to the idea of, well, it's great, physically to be relaxed and allows the fighter to be really loose. That mental focus and having that being physically relaxed can seep into your mental game. And God, it is the most fascinating aspect of it as a sport and as a fan because being a fan of the sport because you get to see a physical manifestation of this mental game and the mental warfare happening. Nick, breaking a little bit of news on me a little bit here, getting me distracted. Ariel Helwani was pulled from the stadium during the Cruz co-main event.
Let me pull up his tweets. Give me 1 second. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you a second. Actually, before this, you pull that up. Me and Biggie, we'll talk about the Max Holloway fight because I'm super excited about how that fight went. God damn it, there was so much great shit that happened in this fight. Man, I love Max Holloway. Becoming my favorite Hawaiian fighter, almost stealing that BJ title, and that's a tall order, man. Max Holloway looks like a goddamn animal at 145. Some people critical of that performance, but I think that this had to do a lot with Ricardo Lamas really showing up to fight, being super, super tuned up for this fight, and viewing it as his opportunity to make a statement and come back. So we saw really two great warriors here at featherweight. Mike, what did you think when you watched this fight? I know that this is something you probably watch closely.
Yeah, Max Holloway is actually a friend of mine. He's a good friend of Rufus Sport in general. When Dustin Ortiz fought in Vegas and beat Scoggins, he was there. He came out and hung out with us, ate pizza. He's a cool dude, man. And I can't be more happy for the kid. I'm just sad for him that 9 wins won't get him a title shot.
Only in featherweight with Conor McGregor. Is that a reality, right? Crazy.
Like, what do you do there, People being critical of that performance, they're idiots. He fought a great fight. He tried to finish. He fought as a southpaw during the entire fight. Saw that was a weakness of Ricardo Lamas. Used it, picked him apart, looked great, and then he stood in the middle of the damn octagon with seconds left and goes, "I don't care that I'm up 3-0. You don't waste
it all.
I'm gonna point to the ground, stand right here, and throw down like true Hawaiian that I am." And I was like, we were going nuts, and we were at Dave and Buster's going crazy. I'm like, what are you doing, kid? And, he let it all hang out. How can you not like that performance?
Let it be known, Milwaukee, you can go to Dave & Buster's and challenge Mike Biggie Rhodes to a game of skee ball at your normal UFC pay-per-view. Nick, you got that? Well, I want to make a comment on Max Holloway just because I'm really serious. This kid is lightning, and I think he has a real shot at beating any of the top 3 guys at 145 pounds. He's just he's a really great fighter. but let's tip of the cap to Ricardo Lamas here. He's one of those tough, gritty dudes, and he didn't mind at the end. He was like, I'm losing these exchanges, but I'm going to eat shots to find my openings. A real gritty dude who's had a really, he's lost the fights in the big spot. But I think of that power, and I think of the power that knocked out a guy like Dennis Bermudez. He is a super, super dangerous guy at 145 pounds. And Max Holloway in the first and second round of this kind of shined on him. And God, I couldn't stress how difficult that is, and how nuanced and how much growth he has in his game. If you want to comment on Max Holloway, go ahead, or you can just talk to me about what happened with Ariel. Because we love the drama.
Yes, yeah, definitely. MMA is all about drama. But
always the drama.
I definitely want to talk Max Holloway because, yeah, I agree. It was one heck of a performance. Anyone who I didn't see personally any criticism about this performance, but if there was anyone who criticized this performance from Max Holloway tonight, shame on you. You're not a real MMA fan. Max Holloway put a beating down on Ricardo Lamas, and you got to credit Lamas because he has a chin. You might have thought Max Holloway would have been able to knock him out. When we saw what was going down in the actual fight, Chad Mendes really starched Lamas a year ago or so. But, man, Lamas is tough. Give him credit for that. But Max Holloway, such an active fighter, such a precise striker. He is just such an animal. He's so tough, and I love that ending of the fight where he pointed down to the ground, as you guys mentioned, and just no defense, as the UFC commentator said, no defense, all offense, just slugged it out for 15 seconds or so. And was it the smartest thing to do? No, but at the end of the day, who really cares? It was just such a great moment to see that ending the fight, and the fight all around.
Yeah, I wanted to say real quick, not the smartest move, but actually a really intelligent move in a lot of ways. That willingness to put it all on the line and say, he had the victory. Everyone who could objectively watch the fight knew he at least had the first two rounds. I think that was fair to say.
Yes.
But to draw that line in the sand and just say, I'm willing to risk it all just to show you that I'm the toughest guy, that wins people over in such a huge way. That propels your name into some, cruising to a decision victory or a fight that's memorable and leaves people excited to see more. Crazy fight, and I think that in a lot of ways an intelligent move by Max Holloway.
The reason I say,
go ahead, Mike.
I said, and gets you $50,000.
Boom, right? Shit.
But at the same time, I believe, I think most people believe, it's not the smartest move because he could have gotten knocked out in that
he got tagged a little bit
exchange. And he did get tagged. Lamas actually won. Lamas did actually win, in my opinion, in that 10-second exchange. Maybe a little. It doesn't matter. Who really cares who won the last 10 seconds of the fight?
That last hook. I think he had him stunned real bad. It was maybe. Yeah, I think.
But what I'm saying, the reason it wasn't the smartest move, yes, it wins over fans, but it could have chopped his pay cut, or it could have cut his paycheck in half.
His career. It could have cut his career back 2-3 years of momentum building of a 9-fight win streak.
He's never going back to fighting Andre Feliz and Clay Collins.
No, of course not. Well, okay. But Mike, who won the last 10 seconds?
I actually thought that Max Holloway won the
Boom! Boom, yeah. You're wrong, Nick. I got the eye of a fighter.
A lot of his exchanges, he was actually hitting Max's shoulders and the top of his head because Max ducked his chin down and was letting him rip. And I thought he landed the better punches there and pretty much kept his stance and base a little bit better. So he absorbed those punches a little bit better. So what's up with this Ariel stuff? Because I totally missed this. I tried to keep my phone down.
Well, Ariel announced during the fight that Brock Lesnar was coming to 200 and announced, I think, also that the Conor fight was official. Yes. So he's blown up news. But then what does the UFC retaliate and do, Nick?
Okay, so he tweets out, and who knows if this is the reason, because he actually broke this news, I believe, before actually, it was during the card. Yes, it was during the prelims, I want to say.
It was during the card, but it was before the UFC announced it, for sure.
I have no idea if this is the reason. I kind of doubt it, and I don't think we're really
What
keeping
happened,
it.
brother?
All right, so what happened? His tweets. So the first one says, I was escorted out of the building by Zuffa staff before the main event. Credential taken away too. Didn't see Bisping realize his dream. And then his next tweet is, my longtime colleagues at EKC and at All Elbows were also escorted out of the building with me. Sorry to report,
Wow.
no post-fight coverage tonight. I love the sport and this job with all my heart. Did nothing unethical. I reported fight news. That's it. And then told we're banned for life. So yes, you are right. It most likely was because he broke Brock Lesnar and McGregor.
They gotta cut Esther Lynn and E. Casey out as well. Jesus, when the UFC cuts you, the UFC cuts your whole squad too.
Yeah, MMA.
Esther Lynn's the innocent bystander. Get Esther Lynn's goddamn credentials back, UFC.
I wonder.
You can cut Ariel, but not Esther. She got some great fight photos. Jesus, people.
Well, it's interesting, and I'll just add his last thing. He says, here's hoping cooler heads prevail. I sincerely love every fighter and fan of the sport. You have helped me realize a dream. Thank you. So he says this. He didn't add that Mark Ramonde was escorted out. He said we were banned for life, assuming MMA fighting is banned for life.
Damn.
Will this happen? Will that actually be a thing?
Nah, impossible. Come on, let's be real.
You can't.
That's
Speak
kind
on
of
it, Mike.
He's too big. He's too big, man. I think the UFC fucked up. Fox messed up by doing whatever.
It's ridiculous.
In the first place, he's the best reporter in the game. He's the one who the fighters actually like. The fighters actually want to do interviews with him.
Yes.
They know it's not a mom and pop. They know that it's not this generic shit. That Ariel's a cool dude. He actually cares. He wants to break stories. Like, he's good at his job. He loves it. You know what I mean? So fighters respect him. Fighters are continue to go on his shows. Fighters are going to continue. If Ariel Helwani goes to the hotel right now, he'll get any interview that he wants from any of the guys, no matter what time it is, because guys respect him. And the UFC just, they're just making themselves look bad. Eventually, they're going to have to come around and let Ariel back in because he is the guy. And you know what? He's going to continue to break stories. So don't get mad at him because obviously there's somebody within the camps or within the situation that are giving him the news.
And I love what he's doing. This whole break, it seems ever since he got fired from Fox, I want to say 2 or 3 months ago, I absolutely love what he's doing. He shows now, he's proving now that it wasn't the UFC feeding him all of these breaking news pieces that he was breaking on UFC Tonight and just MMA fighting in general. It is him being a fantastic reporter, the #1 MMA reporter in the game. And I love what he's doing, breaking these stories, huge stories, massive fights, massive signings, Brock Lesnar and Conor Diaz, of course, tonight. He's breaking them literally 2 hours before the UFC confirms it, and it's just perfect timing. And I love what he's doing, just because, not just because he's being a good reporter and getting all these scoops, but just because, I don't know, I'm not against the UFC by any means. I of course not. I support the UFC, but I still find it funny what he's able to do, especially after being fired from Fox.
It's not like anti-UFC to want an independent news source to want to be able to confirm and to break news. This is just everything that Ariel does is par for the course in every other major sports league. But this is fighting, and fighting's always particular, especially with the current business structure that we have with the UFC. Very interesting stuff with Ariel Helwani, and I agree. I think you can't cut out the MMA fighting. Goddamn, MMA fighting is got major support behind it. And
it's either the #1 or #2.
Come on, yeah, exactly. Between them and Junkie, you're talking about probably the biggest covers of the sport. Come on, people, let's not be naive here.
And he has every right, of course. And
yeah, maybe they keep Ariel out to prove a point for a little bit, but it would be a temporary thing at most.
Give him a in the corner timeout.
Yeah, a little slap on the wrist from Uncle Dana. Okay, rounding out the pay-per-view, Diamond Dustin Poirier put it on Bobby Green. Bobby Green coming after a long layoff and a big injury to his knee to a tall test in Dustin Poirier at this 155-pound weight class. Mike, Diamond looks like a killer once he moved up in weight, and not only that, he's kind of coming into his own mentally as well as physically. What do you see as the ceiling for him in the lightweight division?
Honestly, man, I think he has a pretty high ceiling. He can wrestle, he can grapple. He's showing that he can strike. He has the willingness to strike now, and he's hitting with power. Not cutting so much weight is rejuvenating his career. I expected the Bobby Green finish. Like you said, that's a tall order for Bobby Green coming off that kind of a layoff to fight a Dustin Poirier. He probably should have been fighting, a higher ranked opponent or something like that. But he looked great, and I think that if they keep him with guys around, the level of a Bobby Green, he'll continue to look great. But I think once you get up there into the tops of the division, I think he's the underdog, but he'll have a chance. But he's definitely showing that he belongs at 155 pounds, and that he's making a bunch of noise. I like to see him get one of those top tier guys and see what he's made of.
Yeah, definitely. I want to see him against a top 5, top 3 opponent just to kind of shake things up in that division. It seems like it's a little bit stuck on hold, even though we do have a title fight with Eddie Alvarez against Rafael dos Anjos. Diamond's finish here, Nick. What do you got for us?
Well, it was a fantastic win. I actually expected Poirier to win a decision, so I guess in that sense I was a little surprised. Thought Bobby Green would be able to weather the storm of the Diamond and just go the distance with him. Still dropping a decision in his return. First off, Poirier, I had going into this fight, I thought was a better fighter, and Green coming off the layoff and personal issues with multiple family members dying and passing away. So it was hard to go with Green there just for those reasons. I wasn't overly surprised, though, because Bobby Green, he can be a great fighter, but at times I just wonder what he is doing, talking while he's getting basically knocked out. Probably not the smartest idea. I guess he wants to act cool. I guess that's the reasoning. Maybe get in Poirier's head, but it just didn't work. I don't understand the trash talk in the cage, literally when you're getting hit and nearly knocked out. But as far as the performance, you can't complain. It was a fantastic performance from Dustin Poirier. He deserves a massive step up. Top 5, at best, 7 to 8 range for the next opponent. He's definitely gonna be in title contention sooner rather than later. He's gonna continue his way up the lightweight rankings. I really like this guy as a top 5 lightweight right now. He's looked so good since moving up, and people forget he was a top 5 featherweight before losing to McGregor, who at the time wasn't champion or close to being the champion. So just a great performance from Poirier. Shut down Bobby Green in his return, and proved any doubters he had, if there was any doubters, completely wrong.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of interesting stuff. I thought the Diamond Poirier finish was fantastic. Everyone knows my opinion on where I think he lands in the lightweight division. Really great stuff in the pay-per-view. A lot of interesting news announced. We already referenced the Conor McGregor fight and the Brock Lesnar announcement for UFC 200. But lost in the shuffle here, Nicholas, was a little something for the old school. Hall of Famer, 2016 induction class for UFC 200 will be Mr. Don Frye. Nicholas, do you know who Don Frye is?
I do. He is an old fighter with a mustache.
That about nails it. Have you ever seen the fight Don Frye against Takayama? It was a Pride FC fight.
I have, actually. A surprise, I have.
Oh, great. Okay, good. So, viewers out there, if you watch this and have not seen Don Frye fight Takayama, go ahead and do it. It's on my Twitter timeline. It's on Fight Pass. It's probably on YouTube. Just watch it. It's worth your while. Mike, you're smiling. You agree?
Yeah, definitely, man. That fight is just the old hockey fight. Just grab with one hand and punch with your good hand, man. You can't beat that.
You ever been in a fight in high school like that, where you just like grab a guy by the scuff of your neck and all of a sudden it starts going wrong on you?
Man, honestly, hockey fight is kind of how I got into MMA. A lot of
Milwaukee boy.
a lot of the people who know me, they always bring that up, and I tell them like, shh, we don't talk about that. But yeah, hockey gloves were involved, and yeah, that was probably the last fight I got in high school. So yeah, man, you just gotta grab with one hand and let go with the other, baby, and hope someone
Defense.
falls before you do.
Yeah, yeah. Duke Rufus loves a fight like that. I imagine loves seeing striking defense implemented ever.
Yep.
God, just a real legendary pride thing. One of those only happened in Japan moments. But yeah, hats off to Don Fry. He deserves it. Yeah, a Hall of Famer, a real legend. Guys, we had a fantastic preliminary card. As great and as crazy as the main card was, this was a fucking great prelims card too. But we only got so much time in the show. We're not staying on here too much later. We got to pick and choose a lot of great stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let everyone kind of pick one fight. So I'll pick mine first. But you guys, think about one fight that you guys want to discuss in depth, and then we'll speed through the rest of them. The fight I want to bring up first is the curtain jerker. First fight on the UFC prelim, because goddamn it, if the UFC Fight Pass prelims haven't been goddamn bringing it and delivering for you $10 a month, God, I'll pay much more than $10 a month, Eric Winter. So be on the lookout there. Polo Reyes against Dong Hyun Kim was one of the grittiest, wildest fights I've seen in a goddamn long time. Just an absolute great 155-pound affair. Ends with the third in the third round with the KO by Polo Reyes, clocking in at 1 minute and 52 seconds. Dong Hyun Kim, not the stun gun, but the maestro, proven to be maybe the toughest person in the world. What a fight that really can wildly change a person's career and in a person's life just by the amount of damage that happened. I don't know how you're not in complete awe of both of these men and just shower them with praise for putting on such a spectacular performance for our entertainment. It's one of those fights that kind of leaves you speechless and kind of leaves you wondering about things like the human will to take punishment and the human will to glory. Fantastic fight. Do you have any comment on it when you saw it, Mike? Did you see it, and what did you think about what went down there?
I actually didn't see it live. I went.
Oh,
back
it's
and
must watch. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I went back and watched some highlights of it because I was I tried to knock out a quick triathlon at the gym before watching the fights, and I realized that I started it too late. Definitely went back and watched it though, man, and those guys threw down, and we talked about that fight a little bit before the battle breakdown, and these guys told me that Reyes guy was going to stand there, trade, and I thought that Dong Hyun Kim was going to be able to turn it into a wrestling grappling match, and oh boy, was I wrong. He wanted to, stay there and trade too, man. So hats off to those guys. You'll never see me in a fight like that.
Yeah, for I hope we never see you for that, for your own sake and safety and health, because God, it's an important thing to realize when you're a fan of MMA is that you literally watched a life altering event for those two men. Even Polo Reyes and Victor. That's something that will substantially change how their life goes. Nick, you have a comment on this fight, which it is an instant classic in my opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Fight of the year candidate, and it's not going to win fight of the year, and might not even receive a chance to be fight of the year at the end of the year, early next year, because it is two unknown guys on Fight Pass. But these two threw down fake Dong Hyun Kim and Polo Reyes, of course.
That's rude. He's no longer fake anymore. You ain't fake, Dong Hyun Kim after you throw down like that. You take an ass whooping like that and you still stay in the pocket and drop him after taking the shots. You're not fake anyone anymore. You're the most official. You are the maestro. You get the name.
The somewhat real Dong Hyun Kim.
Extremely real Dong Hyun Kim. I will continue to correct you.
And it's something we can debate later on who is more real, Dong Hyun Kim or Dong Hyun Kim, but we'll save that for maybe the circus, because it seems like a discussion we could have on the
circus. But continue.
Anyways, Polo Reyes, Dong Hong Kim. It was a great fight. That's really all I have to say. Both guys threw down. Both guys were exhausted in the second and third. Both guys didn't care though. Both guys probably had a few years taken off their life tonight, and they did that for our viewing pleasure. And I salute them for doing that. How healthy was it? Probably not healthy, but these guys went in and slugged it out for 3 rounds. And anyone that doesn't have Fight Pass or doesn't or chooses to not watch the curtain jerker and the Fight Pass prelims and just prelims in general, I hope you guys learned your lesson tonight.
Yep, definitely. You missed out on what could have been the best fight of the night out of a card full of crazy fights. Important to note, this fight didn't have the highest, technical skill of everything we saw tonight, but goddamn, really well, evenly matched up fight. That's the key, and I think a lot of what gets lost in the greatness that, or the great stuff that the UFC does, is that they're really good at matching fighters at like equal points of their career, so that they're very competitive. Whether they be, from completely different, leagues and backgrounds, like someone Polo Reyes who had his, had his come up kind of, in Latin America and tough Latin America, and Dong Hong Kim who clearly came up in Asia. Nick, what's your fight, your prelim that you want to talk about, brother?
Well, let's see. I definitely have two in mind. I will go with
Pick one.
solid,
I don't give you two. I give you one.
The very solid Kevin Casey versus Elvis.
Oh, stop! I'm gonna cut you off if you're really gonna do that. Come on. Out of a legendary night of fights, Mr. Kevin Casey and Elvis Mutapchik put on the worst fight of the night in a draw with just a lot of inactivity. I wouldn't have been mad at Kevin Casey for taking the fight off, though, because of the circumstances. We'll discuss that later on in the show. Nick, what's your real fight, brother?
Beneil Dariush and James Vick did with Dariush getting
very good fight.
First round knockout. Really fun fight in the sense that Vick he was in trouble early, but he survived. And then of course Dariush just was able to land enough and get that very vicious and needed knockout victory. Coming off the loss to Michael Chiesa. Like I said, really needed this victory. It was a great win for him, and he showed off his striking power. He's known as a grappler, more or less, in the UFC. Hasn't had a finish in over a year. Hasn't had a knockout in quite some time. I believe this was his first TKO or KO win in the UFC. Just overall a great performance. James Vick was undefeated. Will go back to the drawing board. Will be better than ever next time out. I'm confident in that, but just kind of showed that he's not quite ready for that step up when you come to a top 10 guy in Beneil Dariush.
Yep, definitely. Biggie, what do you think about this fight?
I agree with Nick on all points there. I just think that James Vick, for as tall as he is, he needs to learn how to tuck his chin. He keeps his head straight up in the air, and that allows the shorter fighter to hit you with the overhand punches, and he definitely can learn from that, grow from that, and he should learn a lot better.
Yeah, it seems like we cut you off there at the last minute, but yeah, Mike Vick, a tough guy and really ate a bunch of shots, but it just looks like Dariush is filling out and becoming a really, really dangerous guy in the 155-pound division. Someone who could challenge for those top 5 spots, someone who could become, in the discussion, 55 pounds, it's just so hard to get a streak together, and there's just so many different styles that if you get the wrong matchups, you could tumble from a number 5 to a number 15, move from a 15 to a 3 in 1-2 fights. So we'll really see. And we'll see, time tells with Dariush. But mind you, James Vick came in there with the eye poke. We had a couple eye pokes this fight. This is the second of 3, I think, on the night. Don't poke goddamn Beneil Dariush in the eye. He will straight come at you and murder you. And that's, I think, what we learned in this fight.
The lightweight version of Rumble.
Yeah, definitely. Not the guy you want to have some stray fingers with. All right, Mike. What was your fight of the prelims? If you had to pick one fight to discuss.
I'm gonna go with the ladies' fight, the women's fight on there. Jessica Andrade, looking like a mini pit bull, just running across the cage, throwing leather at Jessica Penne. I am a fan and friend of Jessica Penne, and I thought that she would be able to keep the range with her jab, land the better punches, and eventually get it to the ground where I thought she had the advantage. But boy, was I wrong. Little Jessica Andrade adds new life to that 115-pound division, and she looked great.
Yeah, definitely. When we talk about Jessica Penne, I think, what I always remind people of is maybe she did her best work at atom weight, and really that possibility is not in existence for her in the UFC currently. And when you're talking about a girl like Andrade, who's cutting down from being in the 35-pound division, I think you're just looking at two different sized people, and it's hard for her to do anything in a matchup like that. Tough comeback fight too. After taking that title loss and taking as much time off as she did. Andrade is rolling. Looked good. Looked like she made the weight pretty well. I know they had those extra couple hours because of the California State Athletic Commission's rules for hydration. Gave her some time, but I don't know how much of a factor that'll be going forward for Andrade. But God, you get busy in there and you throw hooks. You have, the power to end fights at 115 pounds. That's rare in that division, and I think it can carry you pretty far. Nick, what did you think about the fight, brother?
Jessica Andrade, man, you have to consider her a women's strawweight contender now. I never really looked at her as a when she was at bantamweight, 135, 20 pounds heavier, and said, well, first off, right, I never thought she would be a contender, really top 5 contender. And then at the same time, I never thought she would really, I never really looked at her, despite her height and just kind of her build. I never really looked at her and said, hey, this is a future strawweight fighter. But man, Jessica Penne, you kind of have to look back to that Joanna Jędrzejczyk fight and say, man, did Joanna change her life? This is something I bring up with quite a number of fights. Hennenbrow and Anthony Pettis come to mind, of course, the most for me. And I mentioned this when me, Daniel, Paulo, and Mike here were doing Before the Battle earlier this week. When we were breaking down this fight, I said, hey, there's a chance Penne could come back and look totally different because of that last year title fight loss, and I said I don't think she will. I think she'll be okay and win the fight somewhat decisively, but man, I was wrong. But at the same time, I don't want to discredit Andrade one bit. She just put it down on Penne, looked fantastic doing so, capped it off with a TKO win, I believe in the second round, maybe third, but it was a later TKO win. A huge output of strikes. I saw the stats somewhere. It's something like 107 in a minute or in a round or something like that. Significant strikes, of course. Overall, great performance, and I'm really, really, really looking forward to seeing what's next for her. I say you give her someone like Rose Namajunas. That's a big step up, but she definitely deserves it.
Yep, and that's an intriguing matchup and actually some fair booking from your part. All right, we're running low on time, but I want to get to every fight because this is a goddamn awesome card, and I want everyone to kind of get at least some props. Limited our answers to like 20 words. Let's go through the rest of the card. I'm skipping Kevin Casey against Elvis Mutapchik. Jonathan Wilson loses by KO in the second round, 4 minutes and 11 seconds, to Luis Henrique de Silva. A dominating performance by the Brazilian. Nick, go.
It was a meh fight early on, and the other Henrique de Silva turned it on later on, I guess, and finished Wilson on the ground with ground and pound. Okay performance. I wasn't expecting a ton from this fight, so yeah.
Boom. Mike.
I picked De Silva to win. He did. It was a very kind of a fight. Leave it at that.
Boom. Sean Strickland gets the victory against Tom Breeze. Split decision victory. Two judges see it Sean's way. Close decision victory here. What do you think, Mike?
Disappointed. I thought that Tom Breeze would actually run away with the fight. Definitely, yeah, just bad taste in my mouth. Tom Breeze definitely, I don't know. I don't know what I saw there, but maybe I was wrong.
Nick?
Yeah, I think I overestimated Tom Breeze as well. I saw him win a close but yet decisive decision. Definitely didn't do that. Was a bit too inactive. At the same time, Strickland didn't look overly impressive as well. Uh, these guys are probably closer to the end of the worst fighters with fantastic records. It just wasn't that good of a fight.
Yeah, I think Sean Strickland actually kind of, stepped up and took this fight, or took this, but engaged better in this fight than I thought he would. But I think really it comes down to that, overestimating Tom Breeze. I looked at him as a world beater and a potential real force in the division. I don't know. Maybe it comes that way. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe he's just a young fighter who needs to come into his own. A lot of question marks around this fight. Which was supposed to answer a lot of questions. So interesting there. Cole Miller loses to Alex Caceres. I keep announcing the guy who loses first. Bruce Leroy. God damn it, do I love Bruce Leroy, man. Nothing makes me smile more than fucking Bruce Leroy. And he shined. Man, this is a guy having some shine. This was an awesome card, too. We forgot about Bruce Leroy. Guy comes in short notice, makes some noise. Bruce Leroy, what do you think, Mike?
Bruce Leroy looked the best that I've ever seen him look in a complete fight, even though he almost got armbarred at the end. But, hey, typical Bruce Leroy kind of fight, except for he looked great. Take the rest of your fights on short notice, buddy. Keep the hair flowing. You got the glow.
Boom. Got the glow. Nick, what do you think?
I missed some of this fight. I was writing up that McGregor Diaz article as fast as I could.
Look at this guy.
Looking up from my laptop every now and then. It seemed like a great fight. Caceres surprised me, and it was a good fight. And it would have been really strange to see, but really cool to see if Cole Miller was able to pull that off. But you gotta be happy for Caceres.
One of the best. You're a straight hater, Nicholas.
I'm not hating on.
You're a straight hater, dude. There's only one word for that, and that is straight hating. Dude, you see, he landed some fancy ass shit, and he was going for everything. The guy saw it. It was really. I really think that he kind of. He's one of these weird spiritual cats, and I love that. I'm a sucker for that shit. But he really actually embodied the principles he was talking about. He's like, I see myself, and I'm envisioning myself doing it, and you could see him out there just outwilling it, outworking, and you just saw doubt slowly creep into Cole Miller's head. It was a brilliant, it was a brilliant showcase of confidence. It was a brilliant showcase of athleticism. The hats off to Bruce Leroy. I love that dude. We talked about Jessica Penne against losing to Jessica Andrade, and we talked about Beneil Dariush and his fantastic KO victory. Leaves us with Brian Ortega and a goddamn come-from-behind, or was it a come-from-behind, victory in the third round. Yes. Lands a right knee against Clay Guida, the Carpenter, old-school legend. Nick, what did you think about the fight?
Well, it was a bit slow for the first couple of rounds. Clay Guida looked really amazing. And, yeah, of course. And I was crediting Team Alpha Male there, saying, yeah, I didn't think Guida moving to Team Alpha Male was going to do a whole lot with his age, with his veteran, I don't know what you want to call it, just being a veteran. I didn't think he'd be
learning new tricks. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I didn't think he'd be able to evolve as much and change as much, but he did. He looked good, but man, I guess he left himself open to the knee. Brian Ortega, don't count this guy out. 3 consecutive third round stoppages. 2 of them come from behind victories over Brandao and, of course, now Guida. But look to fade Ortega in the future because he is a very slow starter.
Ooh, big words from Nick Baldwin. Mike Biggie Rhodes, what do you got on this?
Clay Guida cost me some money. I had Clay, Hendo, and Bisping on a parlay that would have made me $1,600 freaking dollars. And way to go, Clay. No, he looked great, man. Made a mistake late in the fight, got a little sloppy. Brian took advantage of it. I think Brian is still a douchebag. Him and Kevin Casey can share whatever needle they were using before, and hope someone finally beats him up.
Ooh, wow. It just being thrown out there on Before the Ball Man Speaks. Speaking from the heart, Mr. Biggie Rhodes. Brian Ortega, I'll give props. Found that knee late. I was really, I'm really impressed by Clay Guida here because he actually has learned new tricks and has adapted his style. Known for the movement, learned the herky jerky and a lot of steps and a lot of just feints that I always thought was a lot of unnecessary movement. He had the cardio for days, so you never really thought that it was a problem. But maybe now as an older fighter, he realizes I got to be more judicious with my energy output if I want to be really fresh in that second and third round as an older fighter. Maybe I should be smarter about my head movement. But it was still very effective with his head movement, but kind of lost it in the third round. Once Ortega just decided I'm gonna just press through and attack, defense be damned, and he found his openings, landed some shots, and that slowed Clay up and opened it up for that knee finish. But another fantastic fight in a night of really fantastic fights. Every time on Before the Ballman Speaks, I always ask our guests to give the entire, first we give out our performance of the night bonuses, just like with Joe Silva, fight of the night, 2 performance of the night bonuses, and then we grade the fights, or grade the card as a whole, rather, A to F, just like we're school teachers here. I'll go ahead first and give my performance of the night, and then I'll go to Nick and Mike. Performance of the night, I'll give out first to... Excuse me, of course, Mr. Michael Bisping. He has to get a performance of the night for that knockout. Just, not only one of the upsets of the year, but one of the more surprising and shocking things I've witnessed in quite a while. I'm going to give my other one to Dan Henderson, because, goddammit, I love an American hero. Nicholas, you're Canadian. You wouldn't understand. Who do you got for your performance of the night, brother?
Yeah, I'm the same with you, Bisping and Hendo all the way, simply because that's probably who the UFC gave the bonuses to, because they give them to main card fighters 99% of the time and not prelim guys. So, yeah, those 2 guys had terrific performances tonight and definitely deserve it. And, of course, you can't argue if Benny Dariush gets one, even Ortega on draws. There was a lot of options.
Pick everyone. Yes. It's a segment. Yes. Segment. You get 2 picks. Mike, who are you 2, man?
I'm going with Bisping and Bisping. I give that guy 2. No, Dan Hendo, of course. But
give that guy $250,000. He deserves it, man. Jesus, give that guy a fat check. Forget this 50 G's, man. He's bringing home the bacon.
Yep, I agree. I like those 2 guys for the Performer of the Night bonus, and then obviously Max and Lamas would be my pick for Fight of the Night, just because of what Nick said. It won't go to the prelim guys most likely. So
it seems like that's always the case with the UFC. I'll give out my Fight of the Night to the curtain jerker though, Polo Reyes against Dong Hyun Kim. I just love the idea of changing a dude's life with 50 G's, and I want to change both those fighters' lives. Give them money that they can invest in themselves and treat themselves like a business. Because we could see some great return on investment on 2 guys like that. Particularly a guy like Polo Reyes fighting out of Alliance, could maybe potentially build himself into a name. And after a performance like that, I think you really got to give it to him. Nick, who your performance of the night, man? Fight of the night. Sorry, brother.
Fight of the night as well, Polo Reyes and Dong Hyun Kim, the somewhat real Dong Hyun Kim. I just think they deserve it. Max Holloway Lamas was fun. That was more of a beatdown for Holloway than a fight of the night, in my opinion. Lamas was able to fight back a little bit, but nevertheless, Polo Reyes, Dong Hyun Kim, both got dropped, both got hurt, both retired. It was a war, and they deserve it.
Man, don't discount that of Ricardo Lamas' performance, man. That was something special there. Okay, we're grading them A to F. We're putting a bow on this show. Thanks for everyone sticking around and watching too. Mike, A to F. What do you grade this card?
I'm giving this card an A, man. It is definitely high quality.
Nick, what do you grade the card?
A+, only because the Fight Pass prelims were lackluster.
What? Wait,
did I say A+?
You need to get out of here. It's past Nick's bedtime, boys and girls. Shoo, go away. You meant A- because the prelims were bad? The prelims were awesome, and the fight card... No, you're done. Wait, I'm going to boot you off the channel, dude.
What did I say?
You gave it an A+.
I need to really go back and watch it?
You gave it an A+.
A, that's what I meant, A.
So just an A, because the Fight Pass prelims were no good, but the Fight Pass prelims are awesome.
Yes.
You cut off. You're
No,
done, brother.
They were
Andrew,
not. They
time
were
for
not.
my grade. Time for my
Kevin
grade.
Casey
Enough.
versus Elvis Murapcic was on
Okay.
the Fight Pass
There you go.
instantly.
Now I got to eject you. Now look at what I got to do. Look at what you're making me do. Nicholas, you've been ejected. Boom. Kicked off the show. Mike's the only one who makes it. All right, dude. I'm giving this an A+. This is an awesome night to fight. Man, we got great news. We got crazy stuff happening. Michael Bisping's the UFC middleweight champion. Dominic Cruz retains his title. Max Holloway's the new patron saint of Hawaii. God damn, Dan Henderson knocked a man out tonight. Dan Henderson knocked out Hector Lombard. This is the greatest night to be alive for an MMA fan, at least until the next card, because it was crazy. Mike, you got anything to shout out to tell the people? You know, everyone should follow you on Twitter at Team Rock Biggie. But anything else? What else you got going on, man?
Man, I fight June 24th in Des Moines, Iowa for the Victory Fighting Championships middleweight title. Definitely going to go out there and let it all hang out, try to get a quick victory and work my way back to the UFC. But I have 12 hours, ladies and gentlemen, around 12 hours. My walkout shirt will be off the market. It's pre-order only. All the proceeds go to my niece. So check me out on all my social media networks. It will be on there tomorrow morning. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything at Team Rock Biggie, Mike Biggie Rhodes fan page over on Facebook. Check it out. Grab one. Support a great cause. Great night of fights, man. Go Michael Bisping.
Yeah, definitely go Michael Bisping. Thank you, Biggie. You know, Biggie's 3-0 since leaving the UFC, so a lot of momentum. You can catch his fight. I think that'll be on Fight Pass for Victory.
Live on Fight Pass on the.
Oh hell yeah, man! So definitely support our man. You know, doing big things on his comeback trail. You know, we kick Nick off, but you know, me and Nick, we host the MMA Circus. It's on Bloody Elbow. Yep. It's available every week. You can catch Nick at Nick UFC. I'll give him a little plug, and you can follow our show on iTunes at the MMA Circus. Not at nothing, man. It is 2 a.m. and I'm losing it a little bit. I want to thank you though, Mike Biggie. Oh my God, hold on. Nick's getting back on this channel somehow. No, stop it. Stop it, Nicholas. Shout out, say goodbye to the people. We'll let you back. He's done. No, he's all right. That's it. No, Nick, say something to the people. Tell them I'll let you back in.
Damn, what a hypocrite. Criticizing Zuffa for going in there stripping Ariel Helwani.
All right, say goodbye to the people. It's late. Say night. All right, for Nick Baldwin and myself, people. Before the Baldman speaks, thanks for tuning in. Peace out, everybody.